Hello, everyone. My name is David. I'm VP Product at Drone Harmony, and I'd like to present to you our platform update for March 2021. So in this short video, we will explain some of the features that we've added in the last couple of months. They're mostly going to be referring to the web application. In particular, we'll touch upon the planning workflow and what changes have been made to the planning workflow. We'll talk about flight plan statistics. We've added a panel to display flight plan statistics, things like flight speed, number of waypoints, ground sampling distance, GSD, and so on and so forth. We added the option to add custom map overlays within Drone Harmony Web. This is very useful when you're working in an area where the existing maps, so the Google Maps that are natively integrated in Drone Harmony, aren't good enough to see the assets or the obstacles that there are in the environment. So we'll talk about custom maps. We'll talk about the new feature in terrain-aware planning, which is called Hill Scan. It's very useful for planning missions for very steep and very uneven terrain, so we'll describe this feature. We'll talk about flight safety and the integration of airspace information in Drone Harmony Web. We've integrated the excellent data of a partner of Drone Harmony called Altitude Angel, and it's now available in Drone Harmony Web for display of real-time airspace information. And we'll touch upon some of the smaller things that we've changed and added, in particular, some flight plan export options, as well as some ways of changing the properties of waypoints and so on and so forth. So let's jump straight into it with the first topic, which is flight plan statistics panel. So let me switch here over to the Drone Harmony Web, and we see that we have a scene here. And let me just quickly start planning some simple mission for the scene, and we'll see the flight plan, planning panel, statistics panel popping up. So I'll go to the plus on the bottom right, pick a top-down mission, for example, for this building here. I'll pick a takeoff location and landing location, and we will jump into our double view where we can decide in which view we're viewing our mission planning. On the right and on the left, we have parameters that we can set. And here you see our statistics panel, and you see some of the information that it displays. And it displays it in real time and adjusted for the parameters that we are choosing. So for the current mission, at a flight speed of 2 meters per second, or you can change whatever speed measure you'd like, we will have an estimated flight time of 5 minutes and 54 seconds. The total distance covered 710 meters, and so on and so forth. So you say that there's quite a bit of useful information about the mission that you can see within this flight planning panel. You can move this panel around if you want to dock it somewhere else on the screen. Once we are happy with the mission, and again, this panel is adaptive, I can change parameters. Of course, as you already know, the mission gets adjusted, but also the statistics get immediately adjusted. So I see that we have a new distance traveled, new flight time, speed, and so on and so forth. If I change the speed that I'm planning to fly this mission with, so will the estimated flight time. It will change as well, and will be the new flight time estimate for the given speed. Okay, so let's save this mission. Let's give it a name. And once we have a mission, we can, of course, in map view also select the mission. And you'll see that if we select the mission, now we have an option on the right to view the stats panel for the already planned mission. So the mission can be, the statistics of the mission, the stats panel can be viewed also for planned missions, as well, something that can be moved around and docked wherever we want. So the stats panel, very useful tool to understand some of the information, additional information about the flight plan that we're generating that's not immediately visible in the visual interface within Drone Harmony. Excellent. So this was the topic of the statistics panel, and let's switch over to the next topic, which is map overlays. So for this, I'll zoom out and zoom into a different part here on the map, a different site. And what you see here is a site in a rural area where we have some buildings, some site, And we also have an orthomosaic overlaid over the map interface, which is a custom overlay. This kind of custom overlays one can now import into Drone Harmony Web and use as a visual tool to represent the scene at a given environment. And of course, this is a georeferenced picture, and it can be of any size essentially, and you can upload it and load it into your Drone Harmony scene. So let's quickly see how loading such an orthomosaic looks like. So we can go here to the menu, and here on the menu we have a new entry called overlay storage. Under overlay storage, we have three options. Upload overlay enables us to upload a new orthomosaic, a new georeferenced image essentially into the Drone Harmony cloud. Once we do that and the cloud and the image is being processed, we can load that overlay from the load overlay menu. We can manage overlays we can delete all the overlays that we no longer need under the manage overlays. So let's start with upload overlay. So let's go into upload overlay. So we can of course give our new overlay a name. So new overlay Zurich, let's say. And the next thing is to find an overlay within our computer. So I will just click on browse files. And here in this folder, you see that I have a GeoTIFF file. So this has to be an orthomosaic in a GeoTIFF file format. So I can choose this file here, and I will click on process. And the next step will be to allow the system to find the coordinate system in which this image is being georeferenced. And if the file was exported correctly in the corresponding software that was used to generate the orthomosaic, you will see that this is already populated for you. You can change this value, the coordinate system, but in most cases, we recommend to just keep it as is. I can click on process, and then the processing process starts in the Drone Harmony cloud. You do not have to wait for this to complete. You can close this. You see it's a progress bar. You can close this and continue working. And then once the overlay is processed, you will be able to load it here. And you can now see there is here this new overlay in Zurich that's being processed. We see its status. But we have a bunch that have already processed. And in fact, I already loaded one to the scene. So how do we work with overlays? Well, very simple. We can load them into the site, and we can have them as visual reference for us in the scene. We can click on them, and we can also change their transparency. Sometimes it's very useful to see how an overlay is essentially overlaid, or how it interacts with the map behind the scenes. So let me switch here to Street View just to emphasize this a bit better. So you see that this transparency slider here, when I click on the overlay, I can drag it, and I can set the transparency of the overlay to whatever I want to be able to see what's actually behind the overlay. So we see actually that the street here is, for example, aligned quite well, but not perfectly with the actual location of the street, and so on and so forth. And if this were a construction site or something like this, we'll be able to see, it will be very useful to see where the current stage of the construction site is with respect to what the map shows behind the scene. Okay. The last thing to know about overlays is that the overlays is also visible in 3D. So you see that we have a scene that's composed of several buildings here, and we have our overlay, and we can see the overlay here in 3D as well. So that's very useful when we're planning various three-dimensional missions, that we have this visual interface here too. Overlays are objects in primitives of Drone Harmony, just like areas and terrain. So they will appear here under the filters menu. We have 3 sites. We're currently at this site with Libel, and you see that we have overlays here, and those are the overlays that are currently loaded here. So we can interact with them just as we would be able to interact in the filters menu with any other primitive. Okay, so those are map overlays, very useful to display up-to-date map information, if you like, in an area of interest. Okay, let's switch back to hybrid map view and zoom all the way out. The next feature I wanted to show is a new terrain feature that is available in Drone Harmony, and that's called Hill Scan. And Hill Scan is a very useful tool for inspecting very steep terrain or very uneven terrain. Let me show you what I mean by this. So we'll zoom into this site over here. And you see that here we have a certain area. We have a number of areas outlined, a number of polygons outlined here. And I will switch over to terrain view because I actually have terrain data loaded here for this area. I'll switch over to terrain view, and we'll start seeing a little bit of the terrain and how it actually looks like in this area. So you see the terrain in this area is actually kind of steep. We have quite steep mountains, and especially this area here has very, very steep walls associated with it. So if we were to map this area, it would be very difficult to use any standard mapping terrain mapping type feature. So for this kind of use cases, we've invented Hill Scan. So let me show you how Hill Scan works. So Hill Scan works on a single or several polygons where you have terrain, just like, for example, terrain map or terrain orbits or any other terrain feature. So let me go here to the plus, and I'll go here to the terrains tab. And under terrains tab, I go to advanced. Under advanced, I have terrain Hill Scan. And I will pick this area that I've just pointed out. I'll pick a starting and landing location. And you will start seeing how terrain map looks like compared to something like a terrain map. So you see that as we have a very steep area, our mission is trying to capture this area in a very adherent way. At every point, it tries to point the camera to cover it as well as possible and point the camera at the wall. It's not easy to see in this large example, but here you see it, for example, how the camera so gimbal and yaw all pointed at in the most perpendicular way possible towards the terrain. So I can adjust some parameters. Let me change, for example, the distance from the structure, from the area, rather here to 50, and you'll see the mission adjusting, and you see how nice and adherent this is. And it's really taking care of all of the curvature of this mountain, as well as the very steep areas. This is something you will not at all be able to achieve with something like standard terrain mapping, but it's possible with Hill Scan. And you see that here, where we have essentially vertical walls, we have a part of the mission that's really capturing this part of the wall sideways. Excellent. So let's save this mission. This is terrain Hill Scan, and we have a mission for inspecting something like this. So what is terrain Hill Scan useful for? Inspecting hangs, cliffs, steep mountains, anything that's very steep in your digital terrain or surface model. We're very excited about this feature and the future features that will be based on the same technology. So this is terrain Hill Scan. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit about airspace safety. So let's jump back to here, this area in Zurich, and zoom out a little bit. And one thing we've added to Drone Harmony Web in the last couple of months is the Airspace Information panel. And this is accessible through this icon here on the right top panel. So when I click on this panel, you start seeing some of the airspace information that's available in the area that you're currently zoomed in on the map. And I can scroll around the map, and you see that I see a lot of the area definitions. So for example, this big orange circle will probably correspond to the Zurich airport that's available right here, indeed. And I can see on the right here some of the definitions of this area. So I can hover over them and I can see what they mean. I can also toggle their visibility on and off. If I want to understand what's happening in a specific area, I can just click and I see all of the airspace definitions that are specific to this area. So in particular, we have indeed Zurich Airport. I can click on that further and I can read a summary of what this means. This information is provided by Altitude Angel, Drone Harmony's partner, and it's another safety feature, another safety layer that we've added to our customers to be able to, during flight planning in the office, to know what kind of airspace they'll be dealing with when they're planning a mission or a flight in a given area. The Airspace information is generally available globally, very good coverage in the Western world, US, Europe, but also available in other countries in the world. Take a look at the Altitude Angel website for more information on that. And now, perhaps a few final comments on several things that we've added. So one thing that was a customer request by many of you is the ability to edit waypoints by means of entering GPS coordinates for the waypoints. So now we've added this option. So you see that I've selected a single waypoint, this mission, and I can click here on position and actually see the lat-long coordinates of this waypoint. And I can also adjust the lat-long coordinates. So I've adjusted them. You see the waypoint jumped somewhere else. So I can actually input waypoint information a lat-long kind of fashion. It's very useful if you know where your waypoints need to be located, or let's say your point of interest needs to be located, but you don't want to, but you don't see it on the map. You know the lat-long coordinates and you want to set them manually. So this is now a way to achieve this. Some of the other things that we've added various export options within Drone Harmony. We've added options to export missions. So in particular, we can export flight plans in various formats. So here we can choose what plans we want to export. We can also pick a single plan and tell to export it, but I can pick a subset of the missions, for example, press and continue. And then I can choose one of two compatible formats: DJI path compatible KML format or Q ground control station compatible JSON format. Give it a name, choose flight execution speed, press continue, and that will export the file that I'll be able to afterwards import into the corresponding application for flight execution if I need to execute a mission with a drone that's not currently supported by Drone Harmony, or if for some other reason you must use one of these other applications for flight execution, but you want to use Drone Harmony for planning. So those are a few of the simple, small features that we added. We've added many more smaller things, and we've changed things regarding the usability. We change things all the time and improve it for our customers. But that will sum up the update for March 2021 for me, and thank you very much for tuning in.